Okay, so I'm talking to Vanessa, who's at the Milan Film Festival. Congratulations on your award for Best Unproduced Script for Bowling for Concubines.
Thank you.
And really pleased you're here.
Pleased to be here.
So please, just tell us the background, how it gestated, how it came about, why you decided to write it.
Well, Bowling for Concubines. I almost said Bowling for Columbine because that was the inspiration. Bowling for Columbine was the title of a film which many people already know.
Michael Moore, is it Michael Moore?
Michael Moore. Yeah. It was a serious documentary about the school shooting in Columbine, Colorado on April 20th, 1999. Very chilling event, very serious, but this film has nothing to do with that, of course. But the title itself, when I heard the title, I was like, Bowling for Columbine? Well, wouldn't it be interesting to be Bowling for Concubines? Like, I just, the comedic mind corrupts everything. So I was like, that's kind of an interesting thought. So I toyed around with it, and when I mentioned it to, other people, they found it amusing. So then eventually I went into writing it, and then I realized I really want it to be not just a comedy about, using concubines as bowling pins, because it's really a short mockumentary about a fictitious game, bowling for concubines, where you're using human beings as pins, in this case concubines, but specifically dealing with the issue of sex trafficking and on some level domestic violence, which are serious issues that the world is facing right now. So I guess the desire to use something serious and make it funny but bring awareness to it was really the objective, and a good exercise in writing and research, obviously, but mainly taking a serious social issue and making it funny.
Yeah.
So
I think you have done stand-up before.
Yes.
Are you still doing stand-up?
Not at the moment.
Right, okay.
But
how long did because and this is just me personally, I think script writing, of all the people I talk to, if I had to do it, I couldn't because I've got no skill in it, that would be the thing that would scare me the most, because I don't know how you'd have the ability and patience. God knows how long it took. I mean, how long did it take to put this script together?
I think 6 months, I want to say, because normally it doesn't take that long to write that short a script, because it's technically only 30 pages, but the fact that I was really researching a lot of something that I really didn't know about.
Right.
And doing a lot of different research into areas like prison and just things that I really knew nothing about, and the prison mentality, because obviously one of the characters ends up in prison, and
I haven't read the script, actually.
Oh, okay.
I've read a couple of them, because that's one of those things that is so specialised, and I've looked at the scripts, and it's so, I don't say it's a technically challenging thing. I don't mean, it gets back to what I said a moment ago, that for me it just seems, of all the people I speak to, it's the thing I would personally think would be the hardest thing to create, because you're starting from nothing, apart from, really, aren't you? You've got an idea in your head, and unlike, say a film director, he knows what he wants to make a film, but he's doing that presumably from a script he already has. But you're literally building this in your mind first before you put pen to paper, and that's why I would imagine it was so hard to do.
I think it's the easiest thing to do for me personally, because I feel like there's never nothing. There's always something to pull from, and that's maybe a sort of grounded training in improvisation.
Yeah.
But even before that, I mean, you have a blank wall. You still have a wall, you know what I mean? And that wall can become a dragon or become a floor. I don't know. I mean, it can be that linear or it can be that non-linear, in the sense that you don't have to be literal about what you're given. You don't have to explain your thought process. You just have to make something from nothing and realize that nothing is never nothing.
Yeah.
Because there's always something.
Yeah.
So once you accept that and you're okay with that, I think just opening the door to just say yes to anything leaves you comedically as a writer and an actor. The possibilities are infinite, and then you're not like editing yourself. You know what I mean? Like you're in the flow.
And is it your favourite thing? If you had to do one thing?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to not do acting, like I would have to still do writing. I mean, that's just, without writing, without being able to express myself through written word.
And once you start the very first, so say you're at page 1, and you're beginning to literally, say pen to paper, typing, does it then flow quite quickly, or does it not work that way? Is it like, I don't know, you might do half page stop, or is it just like, no, now I'm flowing with this, it makes it a little bit easier, does it not work that way?
I think it's like each project is different, but like the standard technique that I have is usually it's the characters that I start first with. Mm-hmm. But in the case of this script, it was really the idea. So that's why maybe it took a little longer for me, because normally a short script should only, as far as I'm concerned, should take like maybe a few months. Very few. Like you have to cut back the time because you have to, it's not that long. But generally speaking, I start, like I have an outline, I have characters, and then I start, I just start free flow writing, and then there's little pieces of dialogue that I hear in my everyday life that, oh, I like that, maybe I'll use that, or something happens that's really, like, ugh, that happened, so I'll use that, like you encounter someone who's just weird or something, some sort of character in your life, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to use that person somewhere. And then, okay, this is relevant to the whatever genre I'm writing, so I'm going to, if it's specifically comedy, but it's horror, and this person, I'm just giving an example, because right now I'm, like, working on a horror comedy, so, like, I'm taking all the annoying people who have been in my life and sort of inserting them in there, which I think is perfect. Yeah. So I was like, what a great...
in there, I hope.
No. Unless you want to be.
No, definitely.
There's, you just, I mean, there's just so much to work with. It's a palette everywhere you go, I feel. There's always something there. I never feel that there's really nothing. And if you feel that there's nothing, then you really shouldn't be doing this. That's how I feel. I mean,
I know what you mean, yeah.
I think every writer hits a wall, hits a block, but it's something you have to kind of wait out and just sort of push through and then just keep writing. I mean, what it really is an act of discipline, whether you're doing like Stephen King does, 20 pages a day, I think someone said that once. I don't know if that's true, but if you're doing 20 pages a day, or if you're doing 2 pages a day, or if you're doing 2 minutes a day, you're still doing something each day towards that. So it's a discipline, and that's really all it is. And there's no map, there's no wrong way or right way to do it. You just have to throw yourself into it and not think too much, because then you'll hang yourself up on the fence as far as like blocking yourself from continuing. Because I've had those moments where I'm like, well, I had this idea and it seemed okay, but do I really want to do this? But yes, you do, because it's funny, and just you have to keep writing it.
Because I've got visions of you or any other script writer. It's sort of 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. You can't see it. You're like, I need to exercise that line out here. I need to add.
I have, yeah.
I can imagine you doing it all the time. And how many revisions did you go through?
For bowling?
For bowling.
I don't even know. It was like so long ago. Probably. I do by sections, so it's kind of like I rework a section at a time. But it just depends on the script. In this case, I had the time to work on it, so. You normally really don't have that luxury. If you're on a deadline, I mean, you might only have 3 months or 2 months, and some people write features in 2 months. I mean, it just depends on what you're writing and how much research is involved. I mean, you can generate things, but you also want them to be good, obviously. So I don't know if there's real answer for that, because I don't really, it was like so many years ago. It was like 6 years ago that I wrote this. So yeah,
Okay.
So it had been sitting there because I'm like, everyone's like, this is a really expensive short film to do, and I'm like, but I'll find a way to do it. That was my thought. But everyone loved it. Everyone reacted to it very well. It was read. It was hilarious. But they're like, this is pricey. But that's the risk you take as a writer. I don't think you should edit yourself just because you think, oh, this is unfeasible financially. I mean, the script is what it is. If people have to cut later on, then that's something you have to accept if you want to see it put out there. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm going to create this, and it is what it is. And if you don't want to get a Chinese pimp, and you don't want to get a whorehouse. I mean, whatever. I'm not saying there's a whorehouse in there officially, but it is what it is. It's your creation. So
yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, one is awful saying, but it is your baby, and everything that's in there is yours. And the truth is, you can do what you want because it is yours, isn't it? And it goes back to creating something from nothing, which you effectively have. An idea in your head, which I keep saying, put pen to paper, which you have. And what's the process? So we know the script is out there. We know you're promoting it, but how do you? Because I'm guessing actually getting someone to look at your script and really take the time to go through it must be a devilishly hard thing to do. Because in LA in particular, I suspect there's so many people trying to get the scripts in front of people. How is that? How do you achieve that?
Well, I think it depends on who you're trying to get it in front of. I've never, the problem really is getting the financing. I mean, it always comes back to the financing because I feel like there's always artists out there, and there are producers, and you can be your own producer if you're, focused and driven. But you have to have certain, obviously, abilities to be able to do that as well, which is you have to be I think in order to be a successful producer, and forgive me if I get a little bit off topic, is that you need the focus, first and foremost. You need the drive, and you need the ability to be able to distance yourself emotionally from the creative process.
Is this much like when I've asked a question about editing before, where, when I've said to filmmakers, having someone perhaps independently coming in and edit a film must be the hardest thing, because I think, I've mentioned this, hang on a minute, they're cutting my film to pieces. Oh, God, but is it the same, in a way, is it the same kind of thing? It's yours, but someone comes in and then they might be pulling it to pieces. I don't really like that, but they might be.
But that's okay, that's where I think my journalism background kind of helps me with that, like distancing myself emotionally from it.
You understand,
so I understand if I'm gonna technically sell a script, then it's gone. Just pay me, and maybe give me full credit for it if possible. You know what I mean? But if I'm partaking in the production side of it, or I'm being in it, or something of that nature, then obviously it's going to be more emotionally involved. So it's harder to distance yourself emotionally, and that's why I like to focus on the creative process instead of the producing process. But to answer your question, a long way around, I don't think it's hard for people to read something, because I have that much faith in my writing, but it's harder to get someone to invest their money into something and commit to that process. To get people on board with something, I think I have to be the one pushing it and saying, look, we'll find a way to get the money to make it, and then, okay, I'll do it. I mean, the good writing is there, the scripts are there, the stories are there. It's just, it's always the people with the money are the hardest to really get. There's always other resources. Everybody's there. There's always actors. I mean, producers are producers, and they're there, and I'm here, and I have faith in all that. It's always that financing part.
It's the money,
yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.